Hi guys, this will be chapter 8 in my Crazy Life series, and it may end up being in 5 parts, and but we'll see how it goes. And I just can't go over an hour, so once it gets close to an hour, then I'm gonna have to stop the video and do part 2 or part 3 or whatever. Also, this may, trigger some people because there is child abuse, maybe a chapter or 2 about that. So it may be triggering for some, but I will warn you when I get to that point, okay? Just in case you want to speed through or something, all right? Okay, so I just wanted to put a warning out there. And this will be about me moving to California. So it'll be from like when I was 7 years old till I was about 11. Oh yeah, I think it would be 11. I put 12, but I think it's like, well, I'll just say 11. I have to get to the next chapter to remember, and I haven't got the next chapter written. So, okay, so we'll get started. And it'll also be a funny story about my cat and my sister being born, and an incident that happened at school when I was at school. I was hardly ever in school, but and also about our documentary show called The Roving Kind. So that's what it's going to be about. Over, I think I have 12 pages here. So, yeah. So, okay. I'm shaking right now because it's triggering for me. I was shaking the whole time I was writing this too. And I wrote it twice. So I do a rough draft first in another notebook, and then I recopy everything and add stuff and stuff like that. So okay, so let's just try to get through it. Okay guys, this is where my life changed for the worst and involves child abuse. So feel a need to warn this chapter, put a warning on this chapter because it may be triggering for some. I'm sorry, I forgot I wrote that. But it may be triggering for some people who have been abused themselves. But it also might help them as well, knowing that they're not alone, as I think a lot of children have been abused, especially in the old days, like this was like 1965. So back then they didn't have like child abuse laws, like they do now. And I just wrote, I'm shaking right now writing this, and I'm shaking right now reading it. I thought about drinking a shot of Jim Beam Fire just to calm my nerves, but no, it will just make me even more emotional, and I'm trying not to cry telling this part of my story, so I will just wing it. Okay, so by the end of 1st grade, my mom flew out to California to see my uncle. He was a movie producer and worked at KCOP in, in California. He introduced my mom to a guy named Buddy, who was also a movie producer, and they got married within a couple of months. My mom could never be without a man. She always had to have a man around, good or bad. KCOP offered them a documentary show called The Roving Kind, but they wanted it to be a family show, including my brother and me, to show people how to travel as a family, and also just how to travel like 8 months out of the year, because that's what we did. We traveled 8 months out of the year. My mom had my brother fly out first because he was always getting into trouble. Then I flew out a few weeks or months later, I don't really remember, We lived in Glendale, California, in a small 2-bedroom house that was the house my new stepdad, Buddy, grew up in. My brother and I shared a bedroom. We both slept in single beds on opposite walls, you know. Buddy was jealous we got the bedroom he always wanted as a kid, but he had to sleep like in the living room or kitchen or something. I guess he never had his own room because he had another brother, and I think that's all. I think he just had an older brother and he wanted his own room. So, you know, while he was growing up, so this didn't help our situation, me and my brother, because he was jealous. And I don't think he liked little kids either. Buddy was a full-blood Sioux Indian and an alcoholic, and very, very mean, especially when he got drunk. So if we did anything he didn't like, the shit hit the fan at big time, big time. So, and every time, every single time. It was never just a light whipping, you know, or something like that. No. This was my mom's 4th marriage. She married my brother's dad first in Biloxi, Mississippi, when she ran away when she was 15 years old. Then divorced because my brother's dad was an alcoholic. And I don't know if he beat her or not. I never heard stories like that, but he was just always getting drunk and she got tired of it. So then she moved back in with my grandparents in Wichita. So she went back to Wichita and moved in with them until she quickly met my dad and got pregnant with me. So my brother and I are 2 years apart. So she had my brother when she was 15 and she had me when she was 17. My dad started cheating on her, so they got divorced, then got back together and remarried to try and make the marriage work, but got divorced before I was born. So they got married, divorced, and remarried and divorced again within 9 months or a year. Okay, where are we at? Oh, we're doing good on time. Maybe I could do this in 4 chapters, but I'm just not sure until I get there, you know. Okay, anyway, we traveled making documentary shows 8 months out of the year, so my brother and I hardly ever were in school. They passed us every year in school like they did for athletes back then. So we never had to turn in assignments or anything like that. So yeah, with athletes back then, they didn't have to do any curriculum, you know, because their focus was on being an athlete. So they would just pass them every year, and they didn't learn anything in school, they just did athletics. So they did the same thing for us. We never turned in any assignments or anything. We would go to school, I don't know, maybe like a month or something out of the whole year. So I never learned anything. Okay, I lost my place. Oh, okay. My mom and stepdad only filmed us holding school books open. So it looked like we were reading, but we didn't read even one sentence. As soon as he was done filming, we put the books away. Jeez, right? Like, we just didn't learn anything. Sears gave us all one new outfit a year that we would wear during filming. I mean, not every single day, you know, but once in a while we would wear our Sears outfit, and I think he said it was by Sears or whatever for their advertising. And also we would get a brand new Volkswagen every year, a Volkswagen bus, you know, like the hippie buses back in the day. And so they gave us a new van every year to travel in, and also the van would be filmed, you know, it would be in the film and pictures and everything for them to advertise. My mom and Buddy both chain smoked with the windows up. It was horrible. Like 2 smokers in this little van, and they never rolled down the windows. And to this day, I have to have a window down. I don't care if it's winter, summer, hot, cold, you know, I have to have the window down or I feel claustrophobic. So, and I know it's from this, you know, like childhood, like trauma in a way, you know, not like horrible, but, you know, having to breathe that, and I had asthma, and it was bad. And then my brother and I played cards in the back of the van, laying on the floor. So we had a big space in the back, and then we would just lay there and play cards or whatever. My mom once in a while would say, look at the Grand Canyon and different scenery, but we were kids. Gotta turn the page. We were kids, so didn't care much about the scenery. We would lay right back down and, you know, play cards. You know, we'd just peek up, oh yeah, that's pretty, and then lay right back down. So we didn't appreciate it really at all. Okay, so this is where I was going to do part 2, but we're only at 11 minutes, so we're going to keep going through this faster than I thought, and I'm still shaking. Oh, God. Okay, one of the few days I was in school, there was a poor girl there in my class that always wore the same dirty dress every day, and she was dirty herself. Looked like she never took a bath, like seriously. She had ground in dirt. You know, you can tell when it's been weeks and weeks. Yeah, she never took a bath. And she had dirt on her face, her arms, her legs, everywhere. And she was jealous of me. And one day, she was standing across the table from me, and I want to stop there. She's jealous because she thought that my life was perfect. Here I came in decent clothes, I was clean. You know, we took baths every night, and, you know, like, she was just jealous. And I don't blame her. So one day she was standing across the table from me, where she picked up a sharp pencil and stabbed me with it. I still have the lead. It's right here, like right there. And she just like, bam, as hard as she could. And I still have the pencil lead in there, about 1 inch long. But back then it was about 2 inches long. But now that I've grown and everything, it's like 1 inch, but I still have the lead in me. It was scary, and it hurt so bad. Oh my God, it hurt so bad. And, you know, went through my clothes and everything, just bam, like a knife. And I still have, I still have the pencil lead in my shoulder to this day. For some reason, the doctors didn't want to remove it, so it's still there. Why, I don't know. It's lead, and lead is poison, right? It makes me wonder kind of about different things I have, like Tourette's syndrome, or if it, you know, could affect that, but I don't know. I felt compassion for the girl that stabbed me, because from the outside looking in, it seemed like I had the best childhood. But she didn't know how bad my life really was. And I felt sorry for her, because it was obvious she was poor and her parents didn't care for her at all. I always wondered if her parents were abusive alcoholics too. I never held it against her though. I never did. I immediately knew why she did it, and I just felt compassion. I mean, it hurt like hell, and I was scared to death, but I could just like feel her pain, you know? And she just wanted to lash out, and she lashed out at me. It could have, I guess been anybody, but, I didn't have to go to school. And, sorry, I'm getting dehydrated. I was never in school, so she was probably jealous about that. And I don't know why the teachers never, reported it to somebody. Like, this girl's dirty every day. I mean, never has a bath in like weeks or months even. I mean, she was always dirty every single time I saw her. But they just didn't have, like, children in mind back then. The parents were the boss, and that was pretty much it. So I don't know. We did get to do cool stuff like riding dune buggies in the desert in Las Vegas. They had a sail on them so we could go faster. So it was like a boat, with a sail, but it was on wheels. So back then, Vegas was only about 3 blocks long, that they called the Strip, where Fremont Street is now. It ran north and south, but the Strip nowadays runs east and west and is about probably 3 miles long or something like that. But before they built up the city, it was just miles and miles of sand dunes and perfect for racing go-karts. And the ground was so dry, because it never rains there, that there was these big cracks. It was like the dirt had separated into these big, like, octagon shaped cracks everywhere. But it crumbled up real easy if you walked on it or rode a dune buggy across it or something like that. Okay, so we camped out in a tent, so I remember it being hot during the day with no shade or trees at all, but got so cold at night. I could never sleep, not even 1 minute. It was just, and I didn't dare ask for anything. So I would just suffer, because I never knew why or if I would get a whipping for asking for something. So I just never asked for anything ever, like an extra blanket, I just didn't. I just dealt with everything. Sometimes we would stay in a hotel so we could shower, and Mom and Buddy could go out drinking at a bar. Those are the times my brother would want to jump on the beds like a trampoline, and we made a lot of noise. So when I skipped a page. So when they got back to the hotel, we would get the belt. Hold on a second, let me see. Okay, this is the warning part. This is the bad part coming up with child abuse. So let me see how far it goes. I think it just is almost a full page, okay? So maybe a couple minutes if you want to bypass it. If we did anything at all wrong at home, I was made to pull up my shirt to the middle of my back and pull down my pants and panties down to my knees, and then had to bend over a bed, and where Buddy would give me triple bleeding welts. Like he just kept whipping at me until he got tired. So I'd have these bleeding welts from the middle of my back all the way down to my knees. My brother would try to fight back, so he got it the worst. So Buddy would hit him until he fell down on the ground. And then my brother would curl up in a ball just like an armadillo. You know, he would just ball up in a tight ball so he couldn't kick his face and his organs in front and stuff like that. Give me a second. Okay, so he'd curl up in a ball. Then Buddy would kick him as hard as he could on his head and his whole body with these hard, black, heavy leather shoes. He always wore them. He would have bruises everywhere. And I had to watch and couldn't help him. I would have rather took the beating than have to watch, and can't help. I would try to sleep at night on my side with my nightgown not touching my bleeding back. Otherwise, I would get in more trouble for getting blood on my nightgown and or the sheets. She's. This is really hard to relive. We're at 21 minutes. I've had to go over this and over this about 7 or 8 times to make sure I don't forget anything. And then I write it all down, and then I write it all again so I can read it better and it's in better order. So it's just a lot. Oh, yeah, it keeps going for a while, the abuse. When we were home, my mom always prepared Brussels sprouts, which I hated the bitter taste of them, and I refused to eat them. So they would make me sit in front of my plate until midnight. Dinner was usually around 6 p.m. Then if I still didn't eat them in like 6 hours, then I would get the belt, which was usually a school night. Because when we were home, we had to go to school, One night I chewed them up and spit them in my napkin. Oh Lord, was that a huge mistake. Huge mistake, and I got it even worse. I never ate them, so got the belt on a regular basis at home, like almost daily. I always blame Buddy for that, but my mom always fixed dinner, but I didn't think of that until later in life. She loved Brussels sprouts. And when I finally realized this, is I went to visit her to make her dinner as she got older, and actually just probably a year before she died. And I was going to make dinner. I was going to try to find something, to piece together. And I looked in the freezer, and there was a package of Brussels sprouts. And that's the first time I realized, and when was I? I was like 55 years old or something. I mean, I was older, I just never wanted to blame my mom, I guess. But, as you get older and you think back, you realize that, the truth always comes out, is what I'm trying to say. She loved Brussels sprouts. She was a narcissist and was jealous of me because I got all the attention when I was born with a hole in my heart. She didn't like my grandpa, but I was super close to my grandpa, so she hated that as well. She always felt like a mean older sister, not motherly at all. Not at all. Never hugged us, never told us she loved us. Never a hug. Nothing at all, ever. I'm still shaking. Okay. I never wanted to think bad of her. But she always was the one to instigate the beatings. I realized years and years later. She was always the one to instigate it. So Buddy would be gone at work at KCOP doing stuff, and she would always tell on us if we did anything, like anything at all. I think she really enjoyed hearing it in the other room. I can't remember her standing there very often watching. But why would she do that? You know, little stuff like if we didn't put our bike away or we left the toys outside or something, we would get beat for every little thing. Anything and everything. So that really hurts, you know, to realize that your mom instigated these horrible, awful beatings. Anyway, okay, this is another kind of a traumatic incident that happened. And we're at 26 minutes, so we'll keep going. One time, we went to Lake Tahoe during the winter for a documentary and met this guy who lived there. He took us all down to the dock, and the lake was frozen over. I mean, it just had, you know, a sheet of ice across the whole thing. It was frozen solid. He started pointing at something, but I was standing behind the adults, so I was trying to see what he was pointing at, but walking backwards. Well, I didn't think about the water, you know. Well, I fell in the lake, broke through the ice, and went down. I knew how to swim, but I had multiple layers on and a big heavy coat, so I just kept going down, then bobbing up. Then I would go down again, and I would kick more, try to get up and take a breath, you know. But that's all I could do because I had, all, you know, long underwear on, like sweaters, like another sweater and a jacket. I mean, because it was freezing there. So I just kept going down. I'd kick, try to take a breath, go down again. And every time I come up, I could see them, and they were just standing there. They never knelt down or anything. Not my brother, and I'm sure they were a little bit in shock, but wouldn't you, like, what, save your daughter? Like, I would have jumped in the lake if I had to for my daughter. So I don't understand that they were just standing there watching, you know. Oh, sorry, this is just so hard. Okay, when you fall through the ice, it's like being stabbed with thousands of knives. It goes all the way through you. Your cells freeze, like everything freezes. And then everything slows down because you can't breathe, you can't move. And I mean, that was probably the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. So I was just instantly freezing and thought, sure, this was the way I was going to die. I thought for sure I was going to die and they wouldn't get me out. So it was a lot going on in my brain, you know. Every time I came up, I could see everyone just looking at me. That guy, the stranger, is the only one that bent down and tried to grab my hand while my mom and Buddy just stood there. That's the first time I realized my mom didn't love me. The guy eventually pulled me out of the lake, but I think I went down 7 or 8 times before he got my hand. He put his coat around me and then ran to his house as I was in hypothermia. When we got there, he stripped off all my clothes and warmed me up with blankets and, something warm to drink. I remember it so vividly. Not even my brother tried to save me. So that's when I really knew I was on my own with this family. Live or die, it was going to be up to me, because I knew my immediate family wouldn't help. If that guy wasn't there, they would have let me drown, I'm pretty sure. So I knew immediately my family wouldn't do shit for me. I feel like my mom almost hoped I would die, and that's hard to take even to this day. It is. Okay, I think I need a break. And we're at 31 minutes. So I'm going to do this in 2 parts. It won't be 5 parts, thank God. I went through it pretty fast. Oh, but I almost forgot to show you these pictures. Oh, this will be later, so on the next part 2. Oh, God, I'm just shaking like a leaf. I hope I can hold these up here. So I drew this in 1966. I think it's so cute. And I drew it in pen, no pencil or anything, just drew it. And I think I'll show you the other ones later. Everything else I'm going to show you in part 2 because it goes along with the story in that part, okay? But anyway, I don't know what his name was, but he's cute. I drew it out of a magazine or something, just doodling. Okay, guys, I hope you have a good one, and I'm going to just try to calm down here, and then I'll do part 2. All right? Okay, guys, have a great one. I hope that didn't trigger you. A lot of kids went through child abuse. I wasn't the only one. My brother wasn't the only one either. So, yeah, they just, kids were meant to be seen, not heard back then. So we could never, talk either. So, or give our opinion about a TV show or anything. We never talked because we might get spanked, if we said something wrong or whatever. So things were different back then, and thank God things are different today, and kids can stand up for themselves, Well, not in every case, but now they could go to school or something, and tell their teacher if they're being abused or something like that, and then the social services will step in and help them out. But they like for kids to stay with the family, even if it's an abusive family. They'll try to make the mother and father go to classes or whatever, these days. But yeah, child abuse is still alive and well today. But anyway, guys, okay, I hope that wasn't too hard for you to hear. And then after this, it gets better. I think that I'm done with the child abuse for the most part, except one little thing, but that will just be like a sentence, okay? All right, guys, have a great day, and I hope you tune in for part 2. Okay, bye-bye.